Hey guys, Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, chuck me a subscribe and check out some of my other videos which are on screen now if you're into pop culture, movies, music, TV shows, games, and everything pop culture, then this is the channel for you. I talk about all those kinds of things. My most recent video was about my top 5 Simpsons episodes of all time. Go and check it out. And if you could please help me out with my watch hours, I am so close to being able to monetize this channel. I've got the subscribers now. I just need the watch time and we are so close. So please watch some of my videos. Go and check out my back catalog. There's heaps of stuff there. Following on from my top 5 Simpsons video I did, I realized that the 700th episode of The Simpsons came out in America on Sunday, and I thought, what a perfect opportunity for a video. Watch the 700th episode of The Simpsons, which is actually a bit of a mouthful. 700th episode of The Simpsons, 700th episode of The Simpsons, 700th episode of The Simpsons. And let you guys know how it was. And how was it? Okay, this is my genuine reaction to watching this episode. It wasn't very good. And before we start, please know that I am the first person to speak up when people say that The Simpsons isn't good anymore. I am the first person to be like, hey, I know it's not the same show it once was, but there are some really good episodes past season 12. Like, there are some really good new episodes of The Simpsons. Don't dismiss it all, it is really good. I'm the first guy to say that. But watching this episode, this 700th episode, the milestone, 700 episodes, 32 seasons, that is a huge feat for my favorite yellow family. And yes, of course I acknowledge that there has been a decline in quality over the years, but as I said, there are some really good episodes from the modern seasons. But this episode to me just missed the mark entirely and felt like a literal zombie version of The Simpsons, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a sec. So the main plot point of this episode, which happens to be a Christmas episode despite the fact that it's middle of March right now, Homer essentially embarrasses himself in the past 6 years before the present day, and there are references to The Simpsons floating timeline and non-canonicity, I suppose, in here, which are kind of funny nods to the show, but a little bit too on the nose for me. Homer embarrasses himself at a staff party at the nuclear power plant, which causes Marge to kick him out of the house until he can get himself right. This leads to a very hopeless Homer kind of wandering around Springfield, and he ends up seeking refuge at Ned Flanders' house. Flanders, whose wife Maud is still alive and currently pregnant with Todd Flanders, brings Homer in, much to the dismay of Maud. And by the end of the episode, Homer delivers Todd Flanders because Flanders is not home at the time that Maud is giving birth and going into labor. That single act of delivering Maud's baby, which Marge for some reason walks into the Flanders house to see, is enough for Marge to welcome him back into the family home with the kids for Christmas. I guess in some ways the plot is okay, but for some reason this episode of The Simpsons, the entire tempo and tone of the show really does feel so stale. The entire time I was watching this episode, I was just like, when is this over? This sucks so much. I didn't laugh once. I didn't even know what parts of this episode were supposed to be the jokes, because The Simpsons is a comedy show. Like, you go back to some of those early episodes and there are laughs, multiple laughs a minute. This one, there was 0 laughs per minute. Every single character just felt so flat, like a zombified version of themselves. They didn't feel like how these characters are, and I'm sure this has been going on for the past 10 to 20 years of the show, right? I haven't kept up with The Simpsons, I do not watch the new episodes, I kind of just remember the legacy of the show that I love, but they just felt like zombies. Not to mention the fact that I am almost certain Marge's voice is totally different to how I remember it in the earlier seasons. Personally, I think that Julie Kavner, the voice actor of Marge, might just be getting sick of the role and is not putting in the same effort. It actually sounded like the voice actor for Marge just didn't care and was doing a kind of version of Marge that was kind of halfway between the real Marge's voice and halfway between just Julie Kavner's own voice. Like, it really It was like here, Marge is here, Julie Kavanagh's voice is here. It's like she's going 50% of the way that she's supposed to.
Listen, before we go, I want to ask you a favor. Don't drink at the office party.
The worst part about this episode, undoubtedly, is the portrayal of Maud Flanders. Maud is a pretty beloved character on the show until she was killed off. She doesn't appear much anymore. And of course she had to appear in this because it was set in the past when she was alive. But Maud was always very similar to Flanders. She was like a very kind, welcoming person who was just doing her best to accept the Simpsons family and would never be rude or mean to them at all.
I thought you boys might be hungry, so I whipped up some club sandwiches.
Like, seriously, in this episode, she is... I'm not saying the word, but you know what I'm saying. She is... And it's like, so out of character for her. Like, why is Maud being portrayed like this? This is not Maud at all. Like, take a look at some of the stuff that she says in this episode.
Ned, that man has got to go.
Maud, you know we can't turn away someone in need right before Christmas.
You're right. I forgot my Christian values. Could you please get our guests some Christmas candy?
Absolutely.
Get the hell out.
Why is Maud suddenly this really bitter, angry woman who is like really rude? Like, she was never that. This is a total betrayal of that character. Noticeably, Lenny and Carl both appear in this episode together. They're also living together, which sort of goes into The Simpsons over time, making Lenny and Carl's close friendship really questionable as to whether they are in a relationship or if they are just friends. Funnily enough, though, I noticed that Carl has no lines in this episode, which I believe is a reflection of this whole movement where white voice actors no longer are portraying people of colour. Of course, there was the whole thing with the problem of our Pooh documentary, in which Hank Azaria willingly has now stood down from the role of Apu. I believe he also voices Carl, and clearly he has stepped down from that role as well. And this isn't limited to The Simpsons. Obviously, Mike Henry has stepped down as the voice of Cleveland Brown from Family Guy, and there are a lot of examples of this kind of thing in the voice acting world coming up now.
My name is Cleveland.
I look back on some of the other milestone episodes that come to mind. For example, the 300th episode of The Simpsons, Barding Over, was the one with Tony Hawk, where Bart becomes emancipated and runs away from home. And I kind of really like that episode. It's a really funny and well-written episode. It's a great milestone episode. It's self-referential, and I really enjoyed that one. The 500th episode, whose title I can't remember, but I'll put it on screen now. I remember watching that episode, which I guess if there's 20 episodes-ish a season, then you would say that every 5 seasons there's 100 episodes. So I guess the 500th episode, by that maths, if it is correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong, would have been around 10 years after the 300th episode, Barding Over. And that plotline was almost identical to the plotline of the Simpsons movie, which I thought was really silly. But this has to take the cake possibly for the worst Simpsons episode I've seen, and I haven't seen any of the new seasons. And I'm sad to be saying that, because as I said, I really love The Simpsons and I want to watch the new episodes and enjoy them, but this one I couldn't enjoy it. Like, I was just like, this is not good. It's not good comedy. It's not good writing. The characters aren't who they are, especially Maud. I don't know why they did that to Maud. And even some of the animation just felt very wonky. I'll put a screenshot or a clip up here of an example of this, but some of the animation just was not good in this. And it makes me sad for The Simpsons because it kind of feels like The Simpsons now has literally just become a cash cow. Like, they're not even putting effort in it anymore. They just know that it's worth so much money, which it is, but that's because it was built on such a great legacy. Now, it's just this shell zombied version of itself, and I really didn't like this episode at all. I was really disappointed. And I went onto the Wikipedia page for it, and some guy from Den of Geek is giving this episode 5 out of 5 stars? 5 out of 5 stars? I can't believe anybody, anywhere, regardless of your knowledge of The Simpsons, I cannot see anyone in the world giving 5 stars, a perfect score, to this episode of television. It's simply not good. And I'm super disappointed that this is a milestone episode of the show. I'm upset, but there's not much I can do about it. The Simpsons is just that show now. Like, it is this shell, zombified version of what it once was. And I hope a really good new episode comes out, but who knows? That's kind of my thoughts. If you want to see my top 5 Simpsons episodes of all time, check out this video. It's on my channel. And go add a bunch of my videos to your watch later. They're all on screen now. I put a bunch of podcasts up that I do on this channel as well, including reading my Harry Potter fan fiction that I wrote when I was 13. Check that out. It is super fun, and I've had tons of really good guests, including, most recently, YouTuber Dave Lee Down Under. Or just go and check out both of my podcasts, which are on screen now on your favorite podcast app or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Subscribe, like, thumbs up, that's what a like is. And my Patreon, feel free to contribute to that if you want your name in the credits and a bunch of other perks. My name's Radio Mike. I will see you in the next vid. See you later, guys.
But I went to run my hand through your hair and I noticed you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time, you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time.